Well, everyone, it's time for us to go ahead and start talking about the Nintendo 2DS and see how this specific device holds up in 2024. Now, here's the thing I will definitely tell you. The 2DS was one of the more interesting consoles that Nintendo ever made. If you remember back when this console was first even announced, a lot of people thought basically the way it was released and announced was kind of like it was like a mock video. It was Nintendo basically showing people just playing the specific console, and a lot of people thought they were lying or that it was like an April Fool's joke or something along those lines. And I'm going to be completely honest, I never really understood why anybody would even buy this thing at that time. I felt like it was a very weird concept, and I think it's definitely grown on me. I still think in some ways it is kind of a weird concept, and when I compare this thing against the 2DS XL, the 2DS XL is a much better console than this thing, but I do understand that there is a place and time for the 2DS, and I do think there's still a lot of reasons and a lot of love I have for this console, and there still might be a lot of reasons why you should probably pick one of these things up. Now, if there's any Nintendo 2DSs available on Amazon, I will be sure to link some of them linked down below, so you can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Nintendo 2DS, I can't even speak today. This console, I am like speechless every time I look at this thing, because it kind of took everything that Nintendo probably didn't want to do on the original DSs, and then they made it into a Game Boy type of console. So even like the Game Boy Advance SP, had like a folding mechanism. This thing completely flat, and I don't even think that was a bad thing going on for this console. Like, I think it actually adds a lot to the charm of this particular device. Now, on the top console, the top upper display, you had a 3.53-inch LCD panel, 400p, so 400 by 240p. The lower panel was a 3.02 touchscreen LCD panel. So that one was 320 by 240. Now, I will tell you, this was a very interesting design choice from Nintendo to not have this, kind of fold. I still think that was the funniest thing ever. Okay, I've already talked about it a lot, but that is the biggest asset. That is the biggest asset for this console. That is the number one reason why people even think about this console, I would say, for the most part. Beyond its low introductory price and everything, it was just a funny thing to kind of see. On the left side of this console, you're getting that joystick, which is still awesome. It still feels very good. You're getting the D-pad on the left side. On the right side, you were getting your A, B, X, Y buttons. You're getting your start and select. The middle, you're getting your home button, and that was kind of it for this type of console. You were still getting at the very top, it was interesting because it folded up. So it basically started off skinny, and then as it got upper, it had a slope to it. I think that was a very interesting choice from Nintendo as well, because it did kind of feel a little bit better in the hand, but it was still a very interesting concept that they had to kind of design that. Previously, there were no slopes on the previous consoles as far as I can remember, and now this one had that slope, which maybe made it feel a little bit easier to hold in the hand. On the top, you had your, trigger switches. On the top, you had your trigger buttons. You also had the capability of adding your, game card if you want to at the top. Your stylus was in this console, and overall, the rest of it, but looked like what you'd expect, honestly. It was a console when you first looked at it, you're like, okay, it felt like how it looked, but it did feel like a pretty cheap console. And that's kind of what Nintendo was going for. They weren't trying to make a super premium console with this thing, I think. I think they were trying to make a budget console that you could buy, that you didn't need that 3D effect on, and you could just, they could just sell this thing. It didn't cost them a lot of money to make. And if you wanted to play all those Nintendo 3DS games, well, you could actually do that on this console and not really have to spend a crazy amount of money on. So I think that was a very cool thing going on for this console from a pricing strategy and business standpoint. But I will say the design of this console, I'm just really not that big of a fan of. Nintendo, I think, was trying to sway this particular console towards younger players. I think that's what they said basically on their Wikipedia page. That's what it says. And I probably would agree with that. I think they were trying to, they obviously were trying to go for a different demographic than the standard Nintendo 3DS. I think it's a little bit of a different strategy, but they learned from this with the Nintendo Switch. Because with the Switch, they have the Switch Lite. And I think that's a very good way that Nintendo basically made a cheaper console, basically restricting us of dock access, but not really giving us a really watered down experience. I think you're still getting a lot of what you'd get from the Nintendo Switch onto a Switch Lite. And I would say the same thing about this. Besides the folding thing, you're still able to experience a lot of what you'd get from a Nintendo 3DS on this thing, minus the folding and minus the 3D toggle. Beyond that, basically almost the same exact console. It's a little bit smaller, but almost essentially the same exact console. Now, why would you even buy this thing anymore? I will tell you, I don't think there's a reason why you should buy a Nintendo 2DS as of this point. If you have the option and if you have the capability, I would just recommend buying something like a Nintendo 3DS or 3DS XL. I think those consoles, which are more expensive now and they're getting more pricey, probably would make a lot more sense to purchase than this particular console. But I still think there is a time and place to buy this console. And the reason for that is to play all those Nintendo 3DS games that are available in the used market. If your only option that you can afford possibly, or in your area you can only find a Nintendo 2DS, these are very, very decent consoles to buy when you consider the massive gaming library that is the Nintendo 3DS library. There are so many games available for this console, and that is one of my most favorite things about the 3DS. Not only can you play all those Nintendo 3DS games, you can also play all those Nintendo DSi and DS games as well that came out so many years ago. So one of my favorite things that I always like to do is play a lot of these older games. I love playing all those Legend of Zeldas that came out last year and the year before. I played a lot of 3DS games. I played Super Mario 3D Land. I played Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds. And those are two 3DS games that were fairly popular. Mario Kart 7 as well. These are fairly popular games. And I will tell you, the Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds was an amazing game. It was such an amazing experience. And I would probably recommend every single person out there, if you have the capability to, play that game. It is a beautiful game that I love playing. And the fact that that's just one game on the 3DS lineup, I have a lot of memories with that game already, and I just played it like a year or two ago. If you have the opportunity to, playing all those 3DS games, you will build up so many memories, and you'll have probably such an insane experience with that type of console. You can buy a 3DS that probably may be a better console, or a 2DS XL, but I think a 2DS, if it's your only option, you can get into this massive array of games, which is the 3DS gaming library, and you can get a very amazing experience from. But not only did, Nintendo make the, Nintendo DS games and 3DS games, they also brought over a lot of games that were on other consoles over to the 3DS. We have a Luigi's Mansion on this. We have a Super Mario Maker. We have one of those ones. We have a lot of other games that came out as well. A lot of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, there was a remake for this console. There's a lot of, ported games that Nintendo ported over themselves into portable mode. Xenoblade Chronicles came out for this console too. You can play all those games on the Nintendo 2DS, which makes this console that much better in so many different ways, in my opinion. And I look at this console and I'm like, wow, it is easily one of the best consoles, that you can buy in terms of the 3DS library of games. It has so many things, and the 2DS is just one way to play them. I don't think the 2DS is the best experience, to play those 3DS games, but I think it is a experience to get a very cheap kind of, if you want to get a cheap entry into it, I think it's a decent option. And this is better than nothing. If it's like you're not going to play any game at all, then you might as well buy this thing. Because you can buy this thing, you can pick up a copy of, Animal Crossing New Leaf or whatever other 3DS game you want to buy, and you can play it on this console, which is very good. Unfortunately, I just don't know if this is the first console I'd recommend people to buy if you want to get into the 3DS lineup. But if it is the only option, then by all means go for it. But if you have the opportunity to and the ability of spending a little bit more money, maybe the 2DS XL or a 3DS XL is a better way to go, in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up here. This video was actually really fun to make for me. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.